The Galactic Council's xenobiological archives contained detailed profiles of every species they'd encountered across 3 millennia of exploration. Herbivores from the crystal meadows of Andromeda, omnivores from the volcanic rings of Kepler 442, apex predators from death worlds where only the strongest survived. Each species fit perfectly into their established categories, their behavioral patterns predictable as clockwork. Then humanity arrived, and everything changed. The discovery of Earth had been routine, another blue marble spinning in the void, another potential addition to their galactic database. But as the Council's deep space reconnaissance drones transmitted their initial reports, something didn't add up. This planet showed no signs of a single dominant predator. Instead, it was chaos incarnate. Multiple competing species, constant environmental upheaval, and most puzzling of all, a bipedal species that had somehow clawed its way to the top of the food chain despite appearing utterly defenseless. Commander Jake Morrison had volunteered for the mission because he believed in humanity's potential among the stars. Standing in the sterile white chamber aboard the Council's research vessel, surrounded by his hand-picked team of Marines, he felt that optimism wavering. The alien scientists circling them moved with the clinical detachment of researchers studying lab rats. Remarkable specimens, chittered the lead researcher, its insectoid features gleaming under the harsh, fluorescent lighting. Dr. Zelthara was considered the galaxy's foremost expert on predator classification. Having personally cataloged over 400 species, its compound eyes reflected the light as it directed subordinates to position scanning devices around the human subjects. No natural armor plating, limited sensory organs, reaction times significantly below galactic average. How did these creatures possibly survive on a world with such diverse threats? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Dr. Amanda Hayes, the squad's medic and resident xenobiologist, felt her jaw tighten. She'd spent years studying Earth's evolutionary history, understanding the brutal gauntlet that had forged humanity. The casual dismissal in the alien's tone triggered something primal in her chest. "Maybe they're underestimating us," she whispered to Sergeant Mike Torres, who stood rigid beside her. His 20 years of combat experience had taught him to read situations. Every instinct screamed danger. But here's the thing. Nobody expected the very traits the aliens dismissed as weaknesses were about to become humanity's greatest strengths. The scanning devices hummed with energy, mapping bone density, muscle mass, neural activity. The alien technicians exchanged data in their clicking language, occasionally gesturing toward the humans with what looked suspiciously like scientific curiosity. It's not the kind reserved for fellow sentient beings, but the type usually directed at interesting specimens. Subjects display unusual stress patterns, reported a crystalline researcher, its translucent form pulsing with bioluminescent data streams. Elevated heart rates, increased adrenaline production, but no signs of submission or fear-based paralysis. Dr. Zelthora's antennae twitched with interest. Curious. Most species exhibit clear flight responses when placed in assessment scenarios. These creatures seem to be evaluating their surroundings. That's when Jake realized the horrible truth. This wasn't a cultural exchange, it was a predator assessment. They were being classified, categorized, filed away in some galactic database, like specimens in a zoo. The realization hit him like a physical blow, anger surging through his system. Beginning Phase 1 announced the facility's artificial intelligence, its voice devoid of emotion. Combat assessment initiated. The floor beneath their feet began to shift and separate, revealing a vast arena stretching hundreds of meters. In every direction, artificial sunlight streamed down from a dome overhead, illuminating a landscape that seemed designed to showcase nature's most lethal creations, and prowling through that manufactured wilderness were creatures that defied imagination. The void stalkers moved like liquid shadow, their obsidian claws catching the light as they tested the air for scent. Each creature stood 8 feet tall, their serpentine bodies built for speed and lethality. According to the Council's files, they had a 94% success rate against all tested species. Their homeworld was a nightmare of perpetual darkness where only the most efficient killers survived. Beside them, crimson ravagers paced with predatory grace, their acid-scarred hides telling stories of countless battles. 10-foot-tall behemoths, whose corrosive breath could dissolve metal. They had conquered 3 star systems before the Council contained them, while Jake muttered, his hand instinctively moving to his sidearm. This should be interesting. Other Marines spread out automatically, their training taking over. Staff Sergeant Tom Bradley began assessing sightlines and cover positions. Corporal Lisa Chen analyzed the Predator's movement patterns, her mind already calculating attack vectors. Private Danny Rodriguez checked his equipment, preparing for the fight of his life. What the aliens didn't understand, what they couldn't possibly comprehend, was that humans had evolved on a world where everything wanted to kill them. Ice ages, volcanic eruptions, predators that made these alien creatures look like house pets. And through it all, humanity had done more than just survive. They had thrived. The observation deck filled with alien researchers, their various forms pressed against the transparent barriers. Some chittered with anticipation, others pulsed with bioluminescent excitement. They were about to witness something unprecedented in galactic history. The classification of Earth's apex predator. Dr. Zelthera adjusted its scanning equipment, prepared to document humanity's inevitable submission. 2 superior predators. The data would be fascinating, it mused. Another species, to add to the prey category. Another puzzle solved in the grand scheme of galactic evolution. But as the arena's barriers began to lower and the alien predators caught their first scent of human prey, something unexpected happened. The humans didn't cower. They didn't flee. Instead, they did something that would fundamentally change how the galaxy viewed Earth's children. They smiled. The Voidstalkers hesitated, their predatory instincts confused by prey that showed no fear. The Crimson Ravagers stopped their advance, uncertain how to process the strange pheromones these creatures were emitting. Not terror, something else entirely. Contact in 30 seconds, Jake announced calmly, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had faced death before and emerged victorious. Remember your training. Remember what we're fighting for. The aliens in the observation deck leaned forward, their scientific instruments recording every detail. They were about to discover that Earth didn't produce prey species. It bred something far more dangerous. What happened next would force the Galactic Council to completely rewrite their understanding of predator and prey, and make them question whether humanity belonged in their carefully ordered galaxy at all. Speaking of understanding power dynamics and how small advantages compound over time, you'll want to check out our next video about the incredible power of compounding. Click the link in the description to discover how tiny changes can create massive results, just like humanity's evolutionary advantages created galactic dominance. The Voidstalkers had terrorized 17 different star systems. Their obsidian claws had carved through the strongest armor plating known to galactic science. Their hunting success rate stood at an unprecedented 94% across all tested species. But as they approached the 12 humans in the testing arena, something unprecedented happened. Their prey smiled back. That smile would haunt alien nightmares for generations to come. The transformation began within the first hour. What the Council's researchers expected was textbook prey behavior panic, scattered flight patterns, eventual submission to superior predators. Instead, their monitoring stations detected something that defied 3,000 years of xenobiological study. Tactical coordination that surpassed even their own military protocols. "They're not running," whispered the facility's chief analyst, its tentacles writhing with confusion as it studied the data streams. Dr. Korthax had analyzed the behavioral patterns of over 600 species, and this violated every principle of predator-prey dynamics. Why aren't they running? The answer lay in humanity's evolutionary crucible. Earth hadn't produced prey, had forged something far more dangerous, Corporal. Lisa Chen pressed herself against the makeshift barrier she'd constructed from arena debris, her trained eyes tracking the alien predator's movement patterns. 23 years old, combat veteran of 3 planetary conflicts. She possessed something the aliens couldn't comprehend, the ability to turn terror into tactical advantage. Classic pack hunters, she reported through her comm system, her voice steady, despite facing creatures that could disembowel her with a single swipe. They'll try to isolate us, create separation, then overwhelm individual targets. But here's what made the aliens' compound eyes widen in disbelief at humans. Weren't reacting like prey at all. Staff Sergeant Tom Bradley, a grizzled veteran whose scarred hands had seen combat on 4 different worlds, immediately began coordinating defensive positions. His voice carried the authority of someone who had faced impossible odds before, and emerged victorious. Rodriguez, I need improvised weapons. Hayes, establish a medical station behind that rock formation. Chen, you're on Overwatch. The Void Stalkers paused in their advance, their predatory instincts suddenly uncertain, their evolutionary memory, prey scattered when confronted by superior predators. These creatures were doing something else entirely. They were organizing. Private. Danny Rodriguez. It's barely 21, but possessing the innovative spirit that had launched humanity to the stars. Began fashioning weapons from the arena's debris. Jagged metal became spear points. Broken support beams transformed into clubs. Within minutes, the defenseless humans had armed themselves with tools that would have made their Stone Age ancestors proud. Ever notice how the best innovations come from the worst situations? Danny muttered, testing the balance of his improvised spear. Necessity really is the mother of all invention. The alien observers exchanged confused signals. According to their databases, humans possessed no natural weapons, no armor plating, no enhanced sensory organs. Yet somehow they were adapting to their environment with terrifying efficiency. Dr. Zeltheris antennae twitched with growing concern. Subject behavior inconsistent with prey classification. Recommend immediate escalation to Phase 2 protocols. But before the facility could adjust its parameters, the impossible happened. The Void Stalkers attacked. 8 feet of pure predatory evolution launched itself at the human positions. Obsidian claws extended, expecting the familiar sound of prey and terror. Instead, they encountered something that would rewrite Galactic Military Manual's coordinated human resistance. Contact left. Commander Jake Morrison's voice cut through the arena like a blade. The sound of gunfire erupted, but it wasn't random. Panic shooting. Each shot was calculated, precise, designed to create maximum psychological impact rather than just inflict damage. The Void Stalkers, accustomed to prey that fled in terror, suddenly found themselves facing return fire from multiple positions. But what truly shattered their predatory confidence was the SAON that followed human battle cries. The noise that emerged from 12 human throats was something the galaxy had never heard before. It wasn't the desperate screaming of cornered prey. It was the war cry of a species that had conquered its own world through sheer, bloody-minded determination. The sound carried the weight of 10,000 years of human warfare. From the first caveman who picked up a rock to defend his tribe to the Marines, who'd volunteered for this mission knowing they might never return home, the apex predators of 6 worlds did something unprecedented in their evolutionary history. They retreated. Analysis impossible, reported the facility's AI, its voice carrying what almost sounded like confusion. Predator species displaying unprecedented avoidance. Behaviors. Stress indicators suggest genuine fear responses. The alien researchers pressed against their observation windows, their various forms trembling with something between scientific fascination and primal terror. They were witnessing the impossible prey that had become predators in the span of a single engagement. But the humans weren't finished demonstrating their evolutionary advantages. Corporal Chen had identified the Void Stalkers' weakness during their brief encounter. They relied on fear to paralyze their prey before attacking. Without that psychological advantage, their coordination faltered. She began calling out tactical assessments to her team, her voice carrying the confidence of someone who had just realized she was fighting animals rather than monsters. "They're ambush predators," she announced, her training taking over. "Take away their element of surprise, and they don't know how to adapt." Staff Sergeant Bradley coordinated the human response with military precision, overlapping fields of fire. "Rodriguez, you're on flanking duty. Hayes, watch our 6." These things might be fast, but they're not smart. The Crimson Ravagers, 10-foot. Tall behemoths whose acid breath had dissolved the armor of countless prey species, approached the human positions with confident swagger. Their previous encounters had always followed the same pattern: approach, intimidate, dissolve, consume. Simple, effective. Evolutionary perfection. They were about to learn that evolution hadn't stopped with them. Private Rodriguez had spent the brief respite analyzing the alien predators' attack patterns. His improvised spear wasn't designed to kill these creatures, it was designed to exploit their overconfidence. As the first Ravager approached, breathing acid that could melt steel, Danny did something that would become legend in human military academies. He smiled, adjusted his grip on his makeshift weapon, and said, "Come on then, ugly, let's dance." The alien observers watched in stunned silence as the defenseless humans not only survived the second wave of attacks but began to dominate the engagement. Every human casualty was replaced by 2 wounded predators. Every tactical adjustment by the aliens was countered by human innovation. Dr. Zeltheris research notes would later describe this moment as the point at which the galaxy's understanding of predator-prey dynamics fundamentally collapsed. The creatures they had dismissed as weak prey were demonstrating something far more dangerous than physical strength or natural weapons. They were showing intelligence, adaptability, and most terrifying of all, they were enjoying the challenge. The arena filled with the sounds of battle. One thing became crystal clear to every alien observer: Earth had not produced another prey species for their databases. It had unleashed something that would force them to reconsider humanity's place in the galactic hierarchy. The question was no longer whether humans belonged among the stars, it was whether the galaxy was ready for what humanity brought with them. Just like these Marines adapted and overcame impossible odds, small advantages compound over time to create massive results. Speaking of compounding advantages, check out our next video about the incredible power of compounding. Click the link to discover how tiny changes create unstoppable momentum. Just like humanity's rise to galactic dominance, by day 3, the research facility had transformed from a sterile scientific installation into something resembling a galactic horror movie. The alien staff huddled in their control rooms, afraid to venture into the corridors where their test subjects now moved freely. Every predator species they had introduced to the human subjects had suffered the same devastating fate, not death, but something infinitely worse for apex predators they had learned to fear. The Crystal Hive warriors had conquered entire star systems through pure strategic brilliance, now cowered in their containment cells like frightened children. These creatures had faced the military might of 12 different civilizations and emerged victorious every time. Their shared mind allowed them to process thousands of tactical scenarios simultaneously, making them nearly invincible in combat. But something had broken their collective will. The Shadow Wraiths, ethereal beings that hunted by phasing through solid matter, had gone completely dormant. For millions of years, they had been the galaxy's most feared assassins, capable of materializing inside their prey's body and tearing them apart from within. Now they refused to leave their dimensional pocket, their energy signatures indicating what could only be described as catatonic shock. "Explain this," demanded Facility Commander Vorthok, its metallic voice crackling with electronic fury as it surveyed the chaos through security feeds. 3 millennia of research had never produced results like this. The carefully controlled environment that had successfully classified hundreds of species had devolved into something unprecedented, a testing ground where the subjects had become the dominant force. Dr. Amanda Hayes sat calmly in what had once been a sterile observation chamber, now converted into an impromptu medical station. Her steady hands worked methodically, bandaging a minor wound sustained during the previous days. Assessment, while her keen eyes studied the alien technology scattered around her. 28 years old, battlefield surgeon with 2 tours of duty, she possessed something the aliens couldn't comprehend: the ability to remain composed under pressure while simultaneously analyzing her environment for tactical advantages. "You want to know what makes us different?" she asked, speaking directly to the hidden cameras she knew were recording her every word. Her voice carried the quiet confidence of someone who had just realized she held all the cards in a game her opponents didn't even understand they were playing. The alien observers leaned forward, their various forms pressed against monitoring stations, desperate to understand what had gone so catastrophically wrong with their assessment protocols. "We don't just adapt to survive," Amanda continued, her tone shifting to something that would have made her military instructors proud. "We adapt to win." But here's what the aliens found most disturbing. The humans weren't just winning through brute force or lucky accidents. They were learning, evolving, becoming more dangerous with each passing hour. The footage from the previous day told a story that would force the Galactic Council to completely rewrite their understanding of evolutionary development. When the Crimson Ravagers, 10-foot-tall predators, whose acid breath could dissolve starship, Hulsed cornered Private Maria Santos. Every predictive model suggested immediate prey termination. Instead, they witnessed something that defied biological logic. Maria, a 24-year-old demolitions expert from Detroit, hadn't cowered. When faced with a creature that could melt her flesh with a single breath, she had done something infinitely more dangerous. She had studied it. In the span of 30 seconds, while dodging streams of corrosive acid, she had analyzed the Ravagers' attack patterns, identified the brief cooling period between acid bursts, and calculated the optimal timing for a counterattack. "Every challenge teaches us something new," Commander Jake Morrison's voice carried through the facility's communication system, his tone carrying the matter-of-fact authority of someone stating an obvious truth. "Every predator makes us stronger." Alien researchers exchanged panicked communications. According to their databases, learning required extended observation periods, controlled environments, and systematic study. These humans were processing tactical information in real time, under life-threatening stress, and implementing countermeasures faster than their computers could model the scenarios. But what truly sent shockwaves through the facility was what happened next. The humans began displaying trophies. Staff Sergeant Tom Bradley had fashioned a necklace from void stalker claws, each one a testament to a predator that had underestimated human determination. Corporal Lisa Chen wore a bracelet made from Crystal Hive Warrior carapace fragments, the iridescent material still pulsing with bioluminescent patterns. Private Danny Rodriguez had collected Shadow Wraith essence in improvised containers, studying their dimensional phase signatures with the curiosity of a child examining a new toy. "Are they ... collecting souvenirs?" whispered Dr. Zelthara, its compound eyes reflecting the horror of the situation. In 3,000 years of predator research, they had never encountered subjects that took trophies from their opponents. But the most disturbing aspect wasn't the trophies themselves, it was the humans' emotional state while collecting them. They were enjoying themselves. The facility's psychological monitoring systems detected elevated dopamine levels, increased adrenaline production, and neural activity patterns consistent with ... pleasure. The humans weren't just surviving their encounters with galactic apex predators, they were having fun. "This is impossible." Dr. Korthax's tentacles writhed with agitation as it reviewed the data streams. Prey species don't experience positive emotional responses to predator encounters. It violates every principle of evolutionary psychology. Amanda Hayes looked up from her medical work, a slight smile playing at the corners of her mouth. "Thinking about this all wrong," she said, her voice carrying the patience of a teacher explaining a simple concept to confused students. "You see us as prey because we don't have claws or acid breath or phase-shifting abilities. But you're missing the most important adaptation of all." The aliens waited, their recording devices capturing every word. "We have imagination." The statement hung in the air like a death sentence. While other species had evolved specific physical adaptations for survival, humans had developed something infinitely more dangerous: the ability to envision solutions that didn't yet exist, to innovate under pressure, to turn any environment into a weapon. Private Rodriguez demonstrated this principle by fashioning a trap using salvaged arena materials and basic physics. When the next wave of test predators was released, they walked directly into a snare that would have made their Stone Age ancestors proud: the plasma eels, Creatures that could generate enough electrical energy to power a small city found themselves redirected into a makeshift Faraday cage constructed from facility debris. "Beautiful engineering," Jake commented, watching the aliens. Most feared electrical predators rendered harmless by human ingenuity. Give a human some scrap metal and a problem to solve, and they'll change the world. The facility commander's electronic voice crackled with something approaching panic. "Initiate containment, Protocol 7. Seal all sections. We need to control this situation before the lights went out." In the darkness, the aliens heard something that would haunt their nightmares for generations: human laughter. Not the desperate giggling of creatures on the edge of sanity, but the confident amusement of predators who had just realized they were no longer the ones being hunted. Emergency lighting flickered on, revealing empty containment cells and open facility doors. The humans had learned to operate alien technology, override security systems, and move through the station with the confidence of people who owned the place. "They're not just adapting," whispered Dr. Zelthara, its voice barely audible above the facility's emergency alarms. "They're evolving in real time. Learning, improving, becoming more dangerous with each passing moment." The realization hit the alien research team like a physical blow. They hadn't been studying prey behavior, they had been training the galaxy's most dangerous predators to become even more lethal, and now those predators were loose in their facility. Armed with alien technology, and displaying the kind of innovative thinking that had taken humanity from cave dwellers to starfaring civilization in just 10,000 years. The question was no longer whether humans belonged in the galaxy, was whether the galaxy could survive what humanity was becoming. Just like these Marines turned every challenge into an opportunity for growth. Small advantages compound over time to create unstoppable momentum. Speaking of compounding effects, our next video reveals how tiny changes create massive results. Click the link to discover the incredible power of compounding and how it applies to every aspect of your life. Within a week, the Kepler facility had transformed from the galaxy's premier research installation into something that would feature in alien nightmare stories for generations. The Council's carefully maintained worldview, built on 3 millennia of precise scientific classification, lay in ruins around them like shattered glass. Every predator species they had introduced to the human subjects had suffered the same devastating psychological fate. And it wasn't death that had broken them. It was something infinitely worse for apex predators. They had learned to fear void serpents, ethereal creatures that had terrorized the Andromeda sector for eons. I refused to emerge from their containment units. These beings hunted by dissolving their prey's nervous system from within, a process so horrific that entire civilizations had surrendered rather than face them in combat. Their translucent forms could phase through any known material, making them virtually unstoppable assassins. Yet here they cowered, their energy signatures indicating what could only be described as catatonic terror. The crystalline Hive warriors presented an even more disturbing case study. Their collective consciousness had conquered 3 star systems through pure strategic brilliance. Their shared mind capable of processing millions of tactical scenarios simultaneously. They had never known defeat, never experienced doubt, never encountered anything that could challenge their mathematical perfection. Until they met humanity. Immediate extraction requested, their hive mind transmitted through the facility's communication system. Classification error detected. Subjects not prey. Repeat. Subjects not prey. Recommend immediate termination of assessment protocols. Dr. Keshtel, the facility's chief behavioral analyst, stood before the emergency council session with data that defied everything they thought they knew about predator-prey dynamics. Its 6 arms gestured frantically at holographic displays showing stress indicators, behavioral patterns, and psychological profiles that made no sense according to established xenobiological principles. They don't hunt like prey, Keshtel reported, its voice carrying the strain of someone whose life's work had just been proven fundamentally wrong. They hunt like something we've never encountered before. They study us, adapt to our tactics, then exceed them. But here's what made the alien researchers' blood run cold. The humans weren't just surviving, they were thriving. The facilities. Monitoring systems had recorded every interaction, every tactical adaptation, every moment of human ingenuity. The pattern that emerged was more terrifying than any single act of violence. Systematic, methodical improvement. Each encounter with alien predators made the humans more dangerous, more efficient, more deadly. Private Maria Santos had turned her encounter with the acid wraiths into a masterclass in chemical warfare. After analyzing their corrosive secretions, she had developed neutralizing compounds using facility materials and basic chemistry knowledge. What had once been a lethal threat became a tactical advantage. Corporel. Lisa Chen had studied the phase hunters' dimensional shifting patterns and created early warning systems that detected their approach before they could materialize. Creatures that had been invisible death now found themselves exposed and vulnerable. Staff Sergeant Tom Bradley had reverse-engineered the plasma eels, electrical generation, and fashioned crude but effective energy weapons from salvaged components. The facility's most feared electrical predators became unwilling power sources for human innovation. Every challenge teaches us something new, Commander Jake Morrison had stated during one of his informal briefings to the hidden cameras. Every predator makes us stronger. The aliens watching those recordings felt something they had never experienced before: existential dread. But the most disturbing development wasn't the humans' tactical evolution, it was their psychological response to the situation. The humans had begun leaving gifts for the research staff. Intricately carved wooden figures appeared outside observation stations, depicting alien researchers with surprising accuracy and artistic skill. Paintings of Earth's landscapes adorned facility walls, created using improvised pigments and makeshift brushes. Simple tools crafted from available materials were left in areas where alien staff would find them, each one demonstrating human ingenuity and creativity. At first, the gestures seemed like attempts at diplomacy, perhaps even submission. The research team initially interpreted them as offerings from prey to predator, a common behavior among species seeking to avoid confrontation. Senior analyst Exthera knew better. She had done what none of her colleagues had bothered to do. She had studied Earth's history in detail. The records painted a picture that made her crystalline structure pulse with alarm patterns. In their brief existence as a spacefaring species, humans had driven over 400 species to extinction on their homeworld. Not through environmental destruction or cosmic catastrophe, but through pure competitive superiority. They hadn't just survived alongside saber-toothed cats and dire wolves, they had systematically outlasted them all. Do you know what's really terrifying about these gifts? Vexthera asked her research team, holding up one of the carved figures. They're not offerings, they're demonstrations. The carved wooden alien was anatomically perfect, showing detailed knowledge of internal structures that should have been impossible for humans to observe. The paintings of Earth showed landscapes that had been photographed by deep space, reconnaissance drones, information the humans shouldn't have had access to. Showing us what they've learned, she continued, her voice carrying the weight of terrible understanding. Every gift demonstrates another aspect of our technology they've mastered, another weakness they've identified, another advantage they've gained. The tools were the most disturbing of all. Each one was designed to perform a specific function within the facility's systems, not maintenance or repair sabotage. The humans had studied their environment so thoroughly that they could create implements designed to disable alien technology using nothing but scrap materials and ingenuity, Council Vexthera announced in her emergency report, her words carrying the authority of someone who had just uncovered a truth that would change everything. We have a problem. Earth doesn't raise prey species. It breeds something far more dangerous. The holographic displays showed Earth's evolutionary timeline, compressed into a terrifying slideshow of adaptation and dominance. Ice ages that would have eliminated most species had only made humans more resilient. Predators that should have driven them to extinction had instead become extinct themselves. Environmental challenges that destroyed entire ecosystems had been overcome through innovation and cooperation. Look at their development curve. Vexera continued, her analysis cutting through the council chamber like a blade. From stone tools to space travel, in 10,000 years, most species take millions of years to achieve interstellar capability. Humans compress that timeline through sheer determination and adaptability. The implications were staggering. If humans could evolve from primitive hunter-gatherers to galactic travelers in such a compressed time frame, what could they become with access to alien technology and knowledge? But the most chilling realization was yet to come. They're not trying to escape, Dr. Kestrel reported, reviewing the latest behavioral data. They're studying us, learning our weaknesses, mapping our capabilities, preparing for something. The facility's security systems, designed to contain the galaxy's most dangerous predators, had been quietly and systematically compromised. Not through brute force or obvious sabotage, but through careful observation and precise exploitation of design flaws that the aliens hadn't even known existed. They've been planning this from the beginning, Vexeter realized, her crystalline form pulsing with alarm patterns. The gifts, the cooperation, the apparent submission, it's all been a facade. They've been conducting their own assessment. The humans weren't test subjects anymore. They'd become researchers, studying their captors with the same clinical detachment that had originally been directed at them. Every interaction had been a data-gathering exercise. Every encounter a learning opportunity, and now, armed with knowledge of alien technology, psychology, and weaknesses, they were ready to implement whatever plan they had been developing. The question was no longer whether humans belonged in the galaxy, was whether the galaxy could survive what humanity is about to become. Just like these humans turned every challenge into a strategic advantage, small observations compound over. Time to create massive insights. Speaking of compounding effects, our next video reveals how tiny changes create exponential results. Click the link to discover the incredible power of compounding and how it transforms every aspect of success. The Galactic Council's emergency. Session convened with an urgency that hadn't been seen since the Andromedan War 3 centuries ago. Representatives from 47 different species materialized in the Great Chamber, their various forms flickering with anxiety as holographic displays showed incoming reports from across the galaxy. The news was spreading faster than light speed. Communication networks could contain it. Humanity had escaped their assessment. The implications were staggering. The 12 humans had been extracted from the facility in what the official reports called a diplomatic retrieval mission. But every council member knew the truth. The humans hadn't been rescued. They had orchestrated their own liberation, turning their captors into unwitting accomplices in their escape plan. They've requested full diplomatic status, reported the council's envoy, his voice trembling with barely controlled fear as it transmitted the message that had arrived just hours earlier. They want to join the galactic community as equals. The word equals hung in the chamber like a death sentence. For 3 millennia, the council had maintained order through a carefully structured hierarchy. Apex predators ruled through strength. Prey species contributed through subservience, and everyone understood their place in the cosmic food chain. Humanity threatened to shatter that entire system. High Counselor Vex stood at the center of the Great Chamber, his crystalline form pulsing with authority as representatives from dozens of species waited for guidance. The ancient being had overseen the integration of over 200 civilizations into the galactic community, but nothing had prepared it for this moment. "We have 3 options," Vex announced, its voice carrying the weight of 3,000 years of experience. "Accept them as equals, attempt to contain them, or prepare for war." The chamber fell silent, except for the low hum of translation systems working overtime to convey the gravity of the situation across 47 different languages. Every representative had reviewed the footage from the facility. Every species understood what they were dealing with, but seeing the evidence and accepting its implications were 2 entirely different things. The massive screens around the chamber flickered to life, playing the most disturbing moments from the human assessment. There was Commander Jake Morrison, calmly coordinating defensive positions while 8-foot-tall apex predators circled his position. There was Dr. Amanda Hayes, treating wounded teammates while simultaneously analyzing alien technology. There was Private Danny Rodriguez, fashioning weapons from debris with the casual efficiency of someone fixing a broken appliance. They don't just survive, Vex continued, its words echoing through the chamber with the finality of a funeral dirge. They excel, they innovate, they overcome. Every challenge makes them stronger. The footage showed humans adapting to alien weapons with terrifying speed, their learning curve defying every known principle of cognitive development. Species that had spent millions of years perfecting their hunting techniques were being systematically outmaneuvered by creatures that had been in space for less than a century. Representative Korthok, speaking for the Void Serpent Collective, raised a trembling appendage. Perhaps we're overreacting. They're still a young species. Surely they can be guided, controlled, shaped into something manageable. The chamber erupted in nervous chittering as various species debated the possibility of human containment. The crystalline hive warriors suggested technological suppression. The phase hunters recommended isolation protocols. The plasma eels proposed immediate sterilization of the Sol system. But Vex had studied humanity's history too carefully to believe in simple solutions. "You're missing the point," the High Counselor said, its voice cutting through the chaos like a blade. "We're not dealing with a typical apex predator. We're dealing with something that evolution has never produced before. Species that doesn't just adapt to its environment, but fundamentally alters it to suit their needs." The screens shifted to show Earth's transformation over the past century. A world that had been ravaged by industrial pollution had been systematically restored through human ingenuity. Climate change that should have destroyed their civilization had been reversed through technological innovation. Resource scarcity that had driven countless species to extinction had been overcome. Through space-based mining and renewable energy, they don't just survive challenges, Vex explained, its analysis cutting to the heart of humanity's true threat: eliminate them permanently. But the most disturbing revelation was yet to come. The main screen flickered, displaying a new transmission that had arrived during the emergency session. Earth's newest diplomatic vessel, a sleek craft that incorporated alien technology in ways that made the Council's engineers weep with envy, hung in space. Just outside the galactic core. Commander Jake Morrison's face filled the display, his expression calm but carrying an unmistakable confidence that made every alien representative shift uncomfortably. The human looked directly into the camera with the steady gaze of someone who held all the cards in a game his opponents were just beginning to understand. "Greetings, Galactic Council," he said, his voice carrying the authority of someone speaking for an entire species. "We've received your assessment protocols and found them educational. Earth stands ready to contribute to galactic peace and prosperity as a full member of the interstellar community." The unspoken message was crystal clear to every representative. In the chamber, Earth had produced the ultimate predator, and that predator was offering friendship for now. "We bring unique perspectives on problem-solving, resource management, and peaceful coexistence," Morrison continued, his smile never wavering. "We've learned so much from our recent interactions with your research facilities. We're eager to share that knowledge with our new neighbors." The threat was delivered with such diplomatic politeness that it took several species a moment to process its true meaning. The humans weren't just requesting membership, they were announcing their arrival as a galactic power. "We've prepared comprehensive technical specifications for our latest innovations," Morrison added, gesturing to data streams that began flooding the Council's communication networks. "Improved energy systems, enhanced medical technologies, revolutionary agricultural techniques, all freely shared in the spirit of galactic cooperation." The alien representatives watched in horror as their computers processed the incoming data. The humans had reverse-engineered Council technology, improved it, and were now offering to share their enhancements. What should have been a gesture of goodwill felt like a demonstration of technological superiority. "Vote," Vex commanded, its voice carrying the weight of inevitable defeat. "All in favor of granting humanity immediate diplomatic immunity and full membership privileges." The vote was unanimous. Not because the Council members believed in human friendship, but because they understood the alternative. A species that could turn a predator assessment into a technological advancement opportunity wouldn't hesitate to turn turn a trade embargo into a military campaign? The age of human expansion has begun, Vex announced, its words carrying the finality of a historical milestone. May whatever gods you pray to have mercy on us all. As the emergency session adjourned, representatives from across the galaxy began preparing for a future none of them had imagined. Humanity had arrived among the stars, and the carefully maintained balance of galactic civilization would never be the same. The ultimate predator had evolved, not claws or fangs, but something far more dangerous, the ability to turn every challenge into an opportunity, every setback into a strategic advantage, every enemy into an unwilling teacher. And now they were everyone's neighbors, just like humanity. Turned every challenge into exponential growth. Small advantages compound over time to create unstoppable momentum. Speaking of compounding effects, our next video reveals how tiny changes create massive results in every aspect of life. Click the link to discover the incredible power of compounding and how it transforms ordinary people into extraordinary achievers. Asterisk, 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 asterisk. The end. Asterisk, asterisk.